Distinguished guests, members of the university, members of the Australian Defence Force, alumni, students, ladies and gentlemen. As the Chancellor of the University of New South Wales, it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome each of you here to this special honorary degree conferral ceremony. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land upon which this campus stands. I'd also like to pay respect, if I may, to elders both past and present, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people here today. Ladies and gentlemen, the importance of UNSW Canberra indeed is a very, very big part of the University of New South Wales. And that importance, together with the importance of our guest of honour here today, is made abundantly clear by the number of you, busy people as you are, who've made time to be here today. We welcome all of you here and thank you very much for coming. Some of you may be surprised to know that in 2017, it'll be the 50th anniversary of UNSW Canberra. And when you reflect on the lengthy history of the University of New South Wales, it will be 70 in 2019. Most of our maturity has been shared with ADFA, which of course became UNSW Canberra. The link between the two is immense. The link between the two is very important. And we're very proud at the University of New South Wales to have had this long history with the Defence Force and indeed with the campus here in Canberra. UNSW Canberra is the only national academic institution with an integrated defence focus. The impact of our outreach is well known by so many, and indeed I'm amazed when I look at the alumni and what they've achieved and what they've given outside of this place. It's also interesting to know that many people think that this is an undergraduate university campus. And of course it does produce outstanding undergraduates. But the bulk of those graduating today are now postgraduates. And when you have a look at the alumni, which numbers 16,000, it's quite amazing to see what this university campus has achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, I can rave on about the link between our university, the Defence Forces, and this place. But I think that's not really what you came here for. Today, we're doing something very special. We're honouring somebody who I regard as a personal favourite, but by the way, chancellors don't get to influence actually anything, let alone who gets these degrees. But this man is an outstanding contributor both to Australia, to the Defence Forces, and actually this place itself and our university as a whole. Today, ladies and gentlemen, in accordance with the resolution of the University Council, we've come to seek to honour Air Chief Marshal Sir Angus Houston by conferring upon him one of our highest awards, that of Doctor of the University, honoris causa. It's an enormous privilege for me and for the university to be involved in this. And so I now call upon the Rector of the University of UNSW Canberra, Professor Michael Frater, to read to us the citation.
Thank you, Chancellor, for those kind words about UNSW Canberra. Air Chief Marshal Sir Angus Houston, can I ask you to stand, please, for the citation? Today we honour Air Chief Marshal Sir Angus Houston in recognition of his eminent service to Australia and to the University. Sir Angus was born in 1947 in Ayrshire, Scotland. When he was 20, he migrated to Australia and joined the Royal Australian Air Force in 1970 and trained as a pilot. 10 years later, as a helicopter pilot, Sir Angus was awarded the Air Force Cross for an open sea rescue in gale force winds in wild seas off the New South Wales coast. Sir Angus was appointed as Chief of Air Force in June 2001 and served in the role for 4 years. During this time, as Acting Chief of the Defence Force, Sir Angus's personal courage in what became known as the Children Overboard incident became and remains an inspiring example of integrity and leadership to all officers in the Australian Defence Force. In July 2005, he was promoted to Air Chief Marshal and appointed Chief of the Australian Defence Force. Sir Angus was one of the key leaders who led the transformation of the Australian Defence Force that has underpinned successful operational deployments. As CDF, Sir Angus oversaw the successful transition from peacetime training to a high operational tempo. This included challenging military operations in East Timor, Iraq and Afghanistan. 58 operations in total, involving 65,000 individual deployments. During his time in the military, Sir Angus sought to lead by example, empower and work tirelessly for the welfare of those in his charge. His legacy includes improved command and control systems, a better understanding of servicemen and women suffering mental health issues and rehabilitation of ADF casualties. His commitment to serving the Australian community continued after his retirement from the Australian Defence Force in 2011. In his post-defence roles, Sir Angus served as chair of the Anzac Centenary Advisory Board, where he provided strategic advice to the government on Australia's commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the First World War. In 2014, he led Australia's response to two major air disasters involving Malaysian Airlines. In his work as the Prime Minister's Special Envoy to Ukraine, Sir Angus led Australia's efforts in Ukraine to help recover, identify and repatriate the remains of Australians killed in the MH17 tragedy. Sir Angus was awarded a knighthood in the Order of Australia on Australia Day this year for his extraordinary and preeminent achievement and merit in service to Australia. Sir Angus has been a great ongoing supporter of UNSW's important role at the Australian Defence Force Academy, and he volunteers his time to serve as chair of the UNSW Canberra Advisory Council. He is also chair of Air Services Australia, counsel for the Order of Australia, the Defence South Australia Advisory Board and the Canberra Symphony Orchestra. He was recently appointed South Australia's Special Envoy for International Trade and Investment. He is also the patron of numerous charitable organisations. Council, noting his eminent service to the community and the university, has resolved it would be fitting that the degree of Doctor of the University, honoris causa, be conferred on Air Chief Marshal Sir Angus Houston. Sir Angus, I invite you to move towards the Chancellor for the presentation of your award.
Ladies and gentlemen, the most intense debate has been occurring at the university as to whether I should call our new doctor Dr. Angus or Dr. Chief Marshal, Sir, whatever. I prefer for this occasion to call him Dr. Angus, and I now call upon him to speak to us.
Chancellor David, my good friend, thank you very much for your very generous words. And also Michael, another good friend, thank you for your generous words. Chancellor, Rector, distinguished guests, members of the university and the ADF, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wonderful day for me. Thank you very much for honouring me in this way. I feel very humble about it. It's just something that I never expected. In terms of the university, I've had a long association with the university, and it has always been something that has been very rich and rewarding to me, because as the academic heart of the Australian Defence Force Academy, the university has played a central role in the education of our officers. The high-quality graduate and postgraduate courses have without doubt enhanced the quality and capability of the Australian Defence Force. The university achieves excellent academic results. As a CDF, I was always delighted with the scorecard at the end of every year. We were always right up there, and the efforts of the university were obviously deeply appreciated by the senior leadership team in Defence. And I can tell you that I'll always be very grateful for the contribution of the university to our nation's Defence Force. It's a vital contribution and one that will stand us in good stead if we ever come into even more demanding circumstances strategically than we have right now. I note there's a number of cadets here. I note most of them are in light blue, so obviously they're in the Air Force. I think I should say a few words to you because it's very important that you understand that you are the future leadership of the Air Force, and anybody who's from another service, future leaders of the Defence Force. It's absolutely imperative that you make the most of your opportunity here at this fine university. I think that you've got to strive to be the best that you can be. Military service is all about duty, and your duty at this stage of your career is to excel and come out of the university well prepared for the significant challenges that you face in the future. One of the things you need to focus on while you are here is on leadership. You have a great opportunity to read widely, discuss and develop a really good understanding of leadership and how former leaders handled difficult situations. I think you've got an opportunity to develop your own framework upon which your leadership in the future will be based. And remember, in the future, you are going to be leading people who will have a high level of reliance on you. So it's absolutely imperative that you, your cadets now, use this opportunity to reflect and learn about leadership. And perhaps I should just share 5 principles of leadership that have served me very well over the last 41 years, or almost 50 years of leadership in a wide variety of different circumstances. I developed them a long time ago, and although the context of leadership always changes with new challenges that you face and the complexity of the environment that you're working in, these principles that I worked out while I was working at the very lowest level of leadership, the tactical level of leadership, have always stood me in good stead. The first principle in my framework of leadership is to provide direction. A leader needs to be able to have a plan, have a vision that he needs to be able to communicate, and if you're in operational circumstances and you're leading, it's imperative that people understand your intent. The leader's intent, the commander's intent, is absolutely vital to the success of the endeavour. The second principle is establish and maintain the right culture. Culture is very important. You see it with sporting teams. A team that has a good culture is invariably successful. An organisation that has a good culture is always successful. What I would expect of you is to develop a values-based culture in whatever unit you end up in or whatever organisation you work in the future. And that values-based culture needs to have a high focus on collaboration and teamwork. Collaboration and teamwork are always better than a single individual working on their own. So make sure you give a sharp focus to your culture in the future. The third principle is leadership itself. I'm a great believer in leadership by example. I think leaders should work tirelessly for the welfare of their people and empower them. And if you do that, as you go forward in your careers, your people will follow you to the ends of the earth. Leadership is also something that is people-focused. It's all about the people, and it's the people that you have to work with. And that brings me to the fourth principle, which is communication. Communication is most effective when you talk to somebody face-to-face, eye-to-eye. Much better than using computers or other forms of interaction. That direct communication needs to be sincere, and the more you can speak from the heart, the more you connect with your people. So it's a good lesson for everybody to think about communication. It's not just about transmission, it's more about listening. And a good listener will always understand what's happening in the organisation that they are leading or the people that they are leading. And then finally, the last principle is relationships. The further I went in the Defence Force, the more important relationships became. And when I used to participate at the highest levels of government, the National Security Committee of Cabinet, I found that relationships were vital. By the way, I've never seen anything positive come out of an adversarial relationship. So you should always be striving for constructive relationships, and if you maintain a constructive relationship, you build trust. And that trust becomes more and more important as you go forward, because as you build trust, you start to build influence. And once you have a relationship where you are trusted and you are influential, you can achieve incredible things. So there are a few thoughts on leadership. I'm really pleased to have you cadets here today. It's vitally important that you do well at this university. I wish you well on your careers in the Air Force. And to the rest of you, thank you for being here today. It has been a great day for me. And finally, David, Michael, and the members, distinguished members of the university, thank you very much for doing this honour for me. I truly didn't expect it, and it's been wonderful for me to be here today. Thank you.
You know, it's amazing how much wisdom you can get when you become a doctor. Thank you very much, Angus, for those wonderful words. Two things were going through my mind as you spoke. Firstly, your points on leadership are absolutely apposite for every part of leadership. When I go to the bank, that's the sort of leadership we'd want. We want from our wonderful cadets, it's the same thing. So well done on those 5 principles, which I wrote down and which I will remember and probably use shamelessly in future speeches. The second thing that kept going through my mind, just as I wandered over seeing somebody who's been very involved in another university sitting in the audience, I think we're one of the most unique universities because we now have an alumni that includes Angus Houston. And so this morning has been very significant for us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Angus not only for the speech, for the wisdom, but also all he's done for Australia and this university. Before we complete the ceremony, I would just like to recognise the contribution of Emeritus Professor Peter Dennis, who's the man in blue over there, who has been our mace bearer today. For me, who stands behind him, it's a very important role that he plays. And if you're wondering why this is so important for him, not only is it his respect for Dr. Angus, but also we have 2 very large graduations next week, and he's practicing. He took the L plate off just for a minute, but he'll be right next week. Thank you very much, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, that now completes the ceremony. I'd ask if you could to please stand while the official party leaves the auditorium. And I am told that there are some beverages outside, and we would love you all to join with us. Thank you.